for them to lose comms and tracking at the same time, sub was gone. There was no question in my mind. For days, I tried to run other scenarios that could account for it. I could come up with nothing.
James Cameron has got to be one of my absolute favorite directors of all time. But I think the thing that I'm most impressed with is not only the success that he's had in Hollywood, but his absolute passion when it comes to the Titanic. And after making his film, all of the work that he did around not only capturing the real Titanic 13,000 feet underneath the surface of the ocean, but also his passion for the engineering around all of it to make all of that possible, to bring that to audiences. And here in this clip, he talks on a news program sharing his experience and his thoughts on the Oceangate Titan disaster and how he knew immediately that the sub had imploded because of poor design and what he calls poor seamanship. I really think this is a great clip. I'm so impressed with this man. Check it out, guys. I'm Collier Landry, and this is Moving Past Trauma.
So Oceangate shouldn't have been doing what it was doing. I think that's pretty clear. I wish I had been more vocal about that, but I think I was unaware that they weren't certified because I wasn't really studying it. I wasn't really interested. Stockton Rush asked me if I wanted to go out there and dive this season. You know, I wasn't interested. This father and son on Father's Day, paid $500,000 to go down in this thing. Holy crap. It's just tragic, and it's horrific, and it's unnecessary. And by the way, it's not lost on me as somebody who's studied the meaning of Titanic. It's greater meaning to us, historically and societally, that it's about warnings that were ignored. That ship's lying at the bottom of the ocean, not because of the nature of its steel or the nature of its compartments, but just because of bad seamanship. The captain was warned. There were icebergs ahead. It was a moonless night, and he plowed ahead for whatever reason. I think there was some greed. There was some glory in it. He had to boot up his rear from J. Bruce Ismay to get into New York on time or early, so they'd have a headline, which I show in the film. And here we are again, and at the same place. Now there's one wreck lying next to the other wreck for the same damn reason. Search. 4 days of search. They're searching everywhere. They were running around with their hair on fire. The sub was right where it was. It was literally on the seafloor below its last known position, which is the first place you look in a search, is the last known position. You don't go running around all over the landscape with planes and trains and automobiles searching, right? It was right where it was when it imploded, and I knew that's where they were going to find it. So you search, first place you look is the last known position, and that's where it is. So there was ultimately never a search. And that ROV was only in the water for about 3 hours before they found it. So what does that mean? They went to the last known position, they looked on the sonar, they saw a clump that was never there before, they drove over to it, and there it was. It's pretty much that simple, right? So, all of this has just been people running around, waving their arms with their hair on fire for 4 days straight. And I just feel terrible for what the families must have been going through during that time. And that then goes back to why the authorities chose to not say what they knew. I can speculate all day long, but I am not going to say it out loud. Look, Monday morning when I first found out about the incident, got on a whole bunch of calls and emails. It's a small community. Within an hour and a half, I had the following information. They were on descent. They were at 3,500 feet. They lost comms and tracking. The last one being the critical one, because the transponder that's used to track a sub during descent and on the bottom is a fully autonomous system. It's in its own pressure housing, and it has its own battery power. So for them to lose comms and tracking at the same time, sub was gone. There was no question in my mind. For days, I tried to run other scenarios that could account for it. I could come up with nothing. So the next thing I did was contacted a few more people and managed to track down, there are acoustic networks around. Some are research, some are intelligence. we got confirmation within an hour that there had been a loud bang at the same time that that comms were lost. A loud bang on the hydrophones, loss of transducer or transponder, loss of comms. I knew what happened. Sub imploded. I sent emails to everybody I know. I said, we've lost some friends. The sub has imploded. It's on the bottom in pieces right now. I sent that out Monday morning. We never expected to see a scenario like this. You know, we may go into hazardous environments like hydrothermal vents, or even to a wreck like Titanic or Bismarck or some of the other wreck sites, which are dangerous from an entanglement standpoint or a collapse, a structural collapse standpoint. But you never worry about the vehicle, the platform that you're in, you know, and you certainly don't worry about implosion. There's never been an implosion of a vehicle with people in it. And so I think this, I don't want to say it blindsided the community, because there was a lot of concern. And by the community, I mean people who operate subs and build subs for a living. There was a lot of concern about this outfit and this sub. A lot of concern, even to the extent that I wasn't involved in it because I was making Avatar 2 at the time, but a lot of them got together and wrote a letter to Oceangate and said, you have to certify. You cannot take people down. It's irresponsible, and it could lead to catastrophe. Literally, the word catastrophe is in the letter. And I think that letter has been made public. All those signatories have come off. But, you know, I never believed in that technology of wound carbon fiber, you know, wound filament cylindrical hull. I thought it was a horrible idea. I wish I'd spoken up, you know, but I assumed somebody was smarter than me, you know, because I'd never experimented with that technology, but it just sounded bad on its face, because we make pressure hulls out of contiguous material: steel, titanium, ceramic, acrylic. And so you can model it, you can do finite element analysis of it, and you know, you understand the yield properties, you understand the number of cycles that it can take. But you can't do that with a composite material, because it's two dissimilar materials, you know, sort of bonded together. And so we all knew that the danger was delamination and progressive failure over time, with microscopic water ingress and fatigue, what they call cycling fatigue. And we knew that if the sub passed its pressure test, it wasn't going to fail on the first dive. It might fail on dive 7, or I don't know what they're at, you know, but it's going to fail over time, which is insidious. You don't get that with steel or with titanium. But, you know, sometimes people get go fever, you know. And look, we celebrate innovation, right? But you shouldn't be using an experimental vehicle for paying passengers that aren't themselves deep ocean engineers. Look, there's a part of me that hoped I was wrong. I really hoped and prayed I was wrong, but I knew I wasn't.
I mean, for me, when I think about this, I just hope that it happened really quick, that it was done, it imploded, and they were done. Because to think of anyone suffering, running out of oxygen, stuck in a vessel 13,000 feet below the surface of the ocean in literally one of the largest graveyards in human history. It's sad to think that it would end this way for them. I just wish them to be at peace. I wish their families to be at peace. I'd like to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Please comment, like, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on this. How has this tragedy affected you? What do you think about it? How are you coping with it? Let me know what you guys are going through in the comments below. I'm Collier Landry, and this is Moving Past Trauma. Thanks, y'all. This podcast is made possible by support from listeners just like you. For exclusive content around this podcast, please consider supporting me via Patreon by going to collierlandry.com/support. Please subscribe via Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from, and please leave us a 5-star review. If you want to see video episodes of this podcast, please check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/collierlandry. You can find links to additional resources in the show notes of today's episode. This podcast is a production of Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Collier Landry.